you so much for your interest in our webinar on 19 industries that will be impacted by blockchain technology. My name is Larissa Greene. I'm with Advanta IRA. My contact information is on the screen, so if you have any questions about self-directed IRAs or alternative investments, I can help you with that. Please feel free to reach out to me there. You can either email me or give me a call. Today we're going to be talking about the different industries that blockchain, because it's really an emerging technology, is going to have an impact on as we go forward. And we're already kind of seeing it with a lot of interest in cryptocurrency here at Advanta IRA. I saw a lot of people kind of trying to get involved in cryptocurrency, while it was at the lower end and as it was on the rise. And so there's all different types of cryptocurrencies out there and available now. And actually our guest today, Travis, will be talking about the blockchain technology and giving you the information based on what he is seeing. But also Travis joined us for a webinar several months ago on cryptocurrency and basically what it is and where it's being used, how it's being used, and how it's being invested in. So we'll invite Travis on in just a second. I want to give you some more information about myself and Advanta. We do not give any investment, legal, or tax advice here at Advanta IRA. What we do instead is provide you the educational materials that you need in order to make decisions on investing in alternative investments. If you do have any questions on self-directed IRAs, I can help you with that. If you're not sure if I can answer your question, go ahead and get it over to me anyway. And if I can't, then I can go ahead and give you some the names of professionals who can maybe help you with your question. A self-directed IRA, just very simply, is an IRA that allows you to invest in things outside of the market. So here at Advanta, we see all different types of investments, but we don't actually hold any publicly traded stocks, bonds, or mutual funds. What we've done is made a business decision not to hold those types of investments, but rather help our clients invest in the things where they really truly take control of their IRA and make investments outside of the market. And in just a moment, I'll tell you about the investments that we do see here at Advanta IRA that are going to be what brokerage firms consider atypical, things that they're not willing to hold. They consider those assets hard to value. They are not set up to maybe pay expenses on behalf of a rental property or receive rental checks, maybe even pay mortgages for real estate investments or hold cryptocurrencies and things like private stock, gold and silver bars. The sky is just about the limit with self-directed IRAs. I also want to talk about the different types of accounts that can be self-directed. A lot of times people will say, I don't have a Roth IRA, so I can't invest in things like real estate and cryptocurrency. But actually, the truth is any type of IRA account can be self-directed. So if it ends in IRA, it can be self-directed, and any former employer's plan can be self-directed as well. Now, I say former employer's plan just simply based on the fact that if you're currently employed, you're currently involved in making contributions into that plan, they may not allow you to do what they call an in-service rollover. But you can always check with them, see if they'll allow it. Sometimes they do. And also we can help you with solo 401ks. If you're a sole proprietor, an independent business owner, and you'd like the opportunity to contribute to a 401k plan, you can use an individual 401k to do so. I also have up here on this slide health savings accounts and education savings accounts, and although they're not retirement accounts, the rules for self-directing them are the same, and so you can use those accounts to invest in cryptocurrency and startup companies that might be involved in blockchain technology like we're going to be talking about in just a moment. And so if you want to invest those types of accounts, we can help you with them. We'll hold those types of accounts and help you make sure that everything is properly titled in the name of either an ESA or an HSA. If you have questions on any of the types of accounts that you have up here, please feel free to send me an email or give me a call and we can discuss them. We can't give you tax advice and tell you which account you should have, but we'll go over the types of accounts, and then with that information you can go to your CPA and find out which type of account they think you should have based on your specific circumstances. If you're just logging in, I want to mention to you that if you have questions, we will take questions at the end of the webinar. But please type them into the chat box because I'm going to keep everybody muted. So type any questions that you might have into the chat box and we'll make sure that we get them answered at the end of the webinar. I just like to give everybody an idea of the different types of investments we see here at Advanta IRA. And, I mentioned before the sky is really the limit. The IRS really says these are the people you can't transact with. These are the rules, but outside of that, you can invest in just about anything. The only two investments not allowed in a self-directed IRA are going to be life insurance and collectibles. Other than those two types of assets, there are certain people you can't transact with, but they allow you to make investments into things like holding actual or tangible real estate, lending money in the form of a note or mortgage, or even in an unsecured note. They allow you to hold precious metals, so gold and silver bars or coins, platinum, palladium, whatever it is that you choose is best for your IRA. They also allow you to trade in foreign currency and cryptocurrencies. So if that is something that you're looking into doing, the IRS does permit those types of investments in the IRA account. You just need to work with a self-directed IRA administrator like Advanta IRA in order to do so. We've seen private stock. That can be something like a local bank or some fast food chains or even private stock, startup companies, things of that nature. We see commodities. And then I'll talk about startups here in just a minute because I feel like that really applies to the blockchain technology. You're going to see a lot of startup companies with this technology, and they're going to be applying it to a lot of different industries, as Travis is going to be discussing. And the way you can get in on that is going to be through investing with your IRA into a startup, and whether that might be lending money to that startup, so having a note for that startup company, or maybe in the form of private stock through subscription documents, whatever it might be. You can make those investments through your IRA and have them either be tax deferred or tax free depending on the type of account that you have with Advanta. So I'm going to talk just very briefly, and then we'll have Travis on here, about how you make that type of investment. And I chose to base my case study on a subscription agreement, possibly having private stock in a company that is looking at working on blockchain technology. So Joe here in my example has $150,000 in his traditional IRA account and is interested in investing in blockchain technology or a company that is working on blockchain technology. So he finds the company that he wants to invest in. Remember, Advanta doesn't give you any investment advice, and we don't do any due diligence. So it's going to be 100% up to you on the investment you're making and to look into that company, make sure you're comfortable with that investment. And once Joe does that, he's going to let Advanta know, hey, this is the company I want to invest in. This is the amount I'm going to invest in with that company. The subscription documents will be provided by the company he's making the investment with, and Joe is going to review those documents so that he understands the investment and is comfortable with it. And then once he does that, he can open his IRA account with Advanta. We'll help him move the money, so we're going to transfer funds from his current IRA administrator over to Advanta IRA. We are going to hold an account here for Joe. Once we do that, we issue an account number to Joe. And then we're going to look over the subscription documents, and anywhere you would typically see the investor's name, it's actually going to be the IRA. So the IRA is making this investment, and that paperwork is going to show it's the IRA instead of Joe personally. And so any income or any growth on this investment isn't going to go to Joe. It's not going to show up on his personal return. It's going to go back to the IRA in a tax-deferred status based on the fact that Joe has a traditional IRA with Advanta. So on those subscription documents, we're going to look for Advanta IRA for benefit of Joe Smith, IRA number 1234. And we'll let Joe know, hey, it needs to be corrected here, and we'll help him make those corrections so that it's properly titled. And then once he approves all the documents, we will actually sign on behalf of his IRA and fund that investment. And that investment will be held in the title of the IRA, so that as any income comes in, we deposit it to the IRA account, and it will remain there for the life of the investment. If at any time there's a capital call, a capital raise on that asset, then Joe will make that through his IRA account. And if he ever wants to make any additional investments, maybe into cryptocurrency or more blockchain technology startups, he can do so through that account if he chooses. And with that, I am going to turn this over to Travis. Travis is going to give you the information on the different industries that we're going to see changing over time because of this blockchain technology. Travis, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Larissa. Thanks for having me back on.
Absolutely.
All right, so we'll get right into it. So blockchain is going to change a lot as we see going into the future, and we're going to cover quite a few different industries that it will impact. And like Larissa said in the beginning, if you have any questions, feel free to write them down, type them in the question box. We will address all of them at the end. It's likely that I will cover some of these questions you may have throughout the presentation, and we may answer them throughout. But if not, I want to make sure that we give some time for your questions so that we can answer them and make sure that everyone is on the same page. So blockchain, what is blockchain? So blockchain is the underlying technology underneath Bitcoin and all of the cryptocurrencies. And so it's based on distributed ledger technology. So what does that mean? So a ledger is basically a list of transactions, right? So like a bank has a ledger. If you have some kind of service you pay for, they likely have a ledger of transactions or information. And so what a distributed ledger is it basically allows for a ledger to be all over the place all at once. So instead of trusting on or relying on a central party like a bank or maybe Netflix or whatever services you're using, it actually distributes this ledger all over the world. So everybody has a copy of it. So we all have a copy of this ledger. And so that allows for a lot of different things. And we'll kind of address that as we go on. And so it makes it transparent, so we can all look at this ledger. Since we all have a copy of it, it is open. It's easy for us to audit. It's resistant to outages. So if one of these servers goes down, and you still have access to it all over the world because everybody has a copy of it, and anybody can see it. It's auditable. We can look at all the records in the blockchain. Blockchain makes things more transparent, democratic. It's decentralized. There's not any one central party that has control of it. Which actually improves efficiency and also makes things very secure as well. And again, as we go through this presentation, you'll see why that is. So we'll go right into some of the industries that it will disrupt. I'm going to start off with banking. So banking and payments. Most people have heard of Bitcoin, if they've heard of blockchain or cryptocurrency. And so this is probably one of the number one areas, or one of the areas that most people are already aware of that this will impact or can impact. And so blockchain will do what blockchain will do to banking what the internet did to media. Another example of this that I like is it's kind of what blockchain will do to the post office what email did sending information, sending data, sending letters to people, that kind of thing. Blockchain will bank the unbanked. So this is kind of huge. About 40% of the world's population right now don't have bank accounts. And so blockchain is actually going to allow them and help them actually have banks. And anybody who has a $15 smartphone in their pocket can now be a part of the Bitcoin network and actually contribute and actually be part of the digital age, which is pretty big. It's pretty huge. Bitcoin allows anyone to send money to anyone directly. There's nobody in between. There's no PayPal. There's no bank. Nobody is in between those transactions. Last month there was somebody who sent $298 million to someone else on the other side of the planet, and this transaction took 10 minutes and cost 40 cents to do so. So 40 cents, 10 minutes, and it was $298 million. It was unheard of in traditional banking. And BitPay, so this is actually a service that you can actually use. Right now a business can actually add this to their website, and what it allows for somebody to accept Bitcoin or a number of different cryptocurrencies and then get paid in their national currency, USD, on the spot. So that way they're not having to worry about holding on to Bitcoin and can actually get paid in their national currency. This allows anyone to actually accept Bitcoin. To take that a step further, this just happened. So last week there was an announcement that the Intercontinental Exchange, which is the parent company of the New York Stock Exchange, has partnered with Starbucks and Microsoft to create a payments platform, an ecosystem, if you will, for payments to be accepted at businesses and then get paid in their national currency. So a lot like BitPay, but kind of on a larger scale. And this is really huge. If anybody knows anything about Starbucks, Starbucks was one of the first companies that actually accepted Apple Pay and Android Pay and all of these different digital payments. And it looks like they're getting ready to do that again with Bakkt, which is that company that these groups of people formed. And it's supposed to launch in November. This will allow anybody in the world to be able to accept cryptocurrency and get paid in their national currency. So this is huge. Banks are investing in blockchain themselves. So there's a company called Ripple that actually is helping banks actually use blockchain technology to transact between themselves. This is huge for areas outside of the country. So if somebody wants to, you want to send money from your bank to another bank outside the country, or another bank just in general, this sometimes can take weeks, if not days. It can take a long time to actually have those transactions get done, and there's usually a lot of fees involved with it. So the banks are even looking at ways to make that easier and make that transition. In addition to that, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, actually came out and said that they had posted an article that said that blockchain and cryptocurrencies, investing in these will actually help them hedge against the next financial collapse. So that's a pretty big thing, I think, as well. Cybersecurity is another area where it will have an impact. So although everything is open and auditable where you can see, everything is secured using cryptography. It's verified, and if you look at the blockchain, you can actually see where if we take Bitcoin, for example, we can see every Bitcoin transaction that's ever happened, all the way back to the very first one that happened. We can see the very first transaction. And so it's all open, but one thing that we can't see is we can't see who is transacting to who. So there is some encryption there as far as like knowing who is sending money where. Next slide. Resistance to unauthorized changes and hacks. So this is something that's huge with blockchain. Because there's a ledger that everybody has all over the world and everybody has a copy of this, if somebody tries to cheat that system and tries to make a change to that transaction, or in any type of data really, they can't do it because not everybody else's ledger won't agree to that. So if you make a change, let's say there's a group of 20 of us and one of those people tries to cheat the system, the rest of our ledgers aren't going to agree with that person who tried to cheat the system. So not only are we not going to honor that change that they tried to make, we're actually not going to talk to that person for a number of transactions. So they're actually excluded from the system for a number of transactions because they were malicious and tried to do something that wasn't correct, wasn't right. The blockchain eliminates the need for middlemen, kind of like I was explaining with the banking example. We don't need third parties when we use blockchain because everybody has a copy of the ledger. So instead of having one central authority, one central person that helps conduct a transaction, it actually eliminates that third person and allows for anyone to be able to conduct business with someone else. It almost takes a in-person transaction where you're used to, maybe I hand an apple to somebody else. We know what happened. We know that I handed that apple to that person. They have an apple now. I don't have an apple. So it's very easy to see that. And this is what is going to allow this to happen in a digital sense, which is really going to change a lot of systems. And again, we'll see more and more as we go through this. Supply chain management is another big issue. So transactions are documented in a permanent record. So like I said before, every transaction is recorded on this blockchain, and we can see the very first transaction that happened. It's open, it's transparent, anybody can see it. And so if we look at a romaine lettuce issue, so there was a few months ago we had romaine lettuce. There was an issue with it, and everybody had to get rid of it. Your audio cannot be understood too well. I don't know if I can improve my audio here. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Larissa, do you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you great.
Okay, cool. So with the romaine lettuce issue, when there was romaine lettuce and it wasn't, and somebody found that there was an issue with it, they had to throw away all of the romaine lettuce. So off the stores, shelves, everywhere, all the romaine lettuce had to be thrown away because they didn't know where the issue came from. But with this technology, we can actually place a blockchain record on each transaction along the way. So, it leaves a building, or it leaves a farm, goes to a manufacturer, goes to a processor, it goes through all these different steps, and we can actually track back which romaine lettuce would have that issue, and actually just pull those from the shelves and allow all the rest of the romaine lettuce being sold. And obviously, this can be used for anything. So this reduces time, reduces cost for a business, as well as the consumer who usually has to end up eating that cost, reduces labor, reduces waste, emissions. It's more sustainable, so it's better for the environment because you're not wasting things. That's always has an impact on the environment. We can verify the authenticity of a fair trade status on products. So we don't always know where things come from. But again, if we can use this blockchain, we can trace back that source and find out where that product came from and know that that fair trade status is actually correct. This slide is actually taken from a presentation that Walmart did. So Walmart is actually currently testing blockchain technology right now with their supply chain management. They're doing that in partnership with IBM. So this is starting to happen right now. So Amazon has actually registered several domain names. We have AmazonCryptocurrency.com, AmazonCryptocurrencies.com, and AmazonEthereum.com. So Amazon is actually already looking at how they're going to implement cryptocurrencies and this technology into their business platform. Walton Chain. So Walton Chain is, I see that I see somebody else still. Looks like Charles can't hear me. Okay, so is there anybody else who can't hear? Looks like you're on it. Thank you, Larissa. So
yeah,
Walton
I got
Coin.
it.
Walton,
I can help them with that.
Awesome. So Walton Chain is basically a platform. Walton is a throwback to the person who actually invented RFID technology. And one of those people that helped with inventing that technology is on this platform, Walton Coin. And basically they're creating a blockchain and pairing that with RFID technology. So that's going to actually allow for businesses, you go to like a Publix, let's say, and which is a local shopping network we have down here in the Southeast. And normally you have people that are going around with a machine and they're checking and making sure that the building is stocked with the correct amount of products, and they're constantly checking this. Now with this technology, we could literally go into a Walmart or a Publix, like I said, and look at a list and say, okay, well, we know all of these things are here because of the RFID chips. And kind of pairing that with the blockchain technology, it really is kind of neat, and a neat project that they're currently working on. Forecasting, so looking at the future. Blockchain will change how we do research, consulting, analysis, and forecasting. So one of the big things is, one of the challenges with forecasting, a lot of times with forecasting, we go based on the past. We go based on history in order to forecast for the future. And with blockchain technology, because things are recorded on this open ledger that's permanent, and we can look back and see things from the past, that actually will allow for forecasting to be more accurate because we know what happened in the past. It's not, swayed because of politics currently or anything like that. We can actually look into the past to help make forecasting actually easier. Another example of that is an encyclopedia. There's Everpedia, which is actually an encyclopedia built on the blockchain. And right now it is actually the world's largest English encyclopedia by content. And this is a blockchain project that's currently going on right now. We can also look at this as far as bets, so gambling and that kind of thing. We can actually use the blockchain to conduct these transactions and actually make a gamble or make a bet online. There's actually a couple projects that are doing that now. We have Decent.bet and Wager. It allows you to make a gamble or a bet on anything you want, and it is actually self-executing, which means that if you gamble on something and it does take place, you win that bet, automatically it'll be executed where you get that payout. There's no bookie in between. There's no middleman. It literally takes care of that, that process in the middle for you. Networking and Internet of Things. So Samsung and IBM want to create a decentralized network of Internet of Things devices using the blockchain. So Internet of Things is basically the future of technology and having our devices communicate with each other. So I like to use the example of my alarm clock wakes me up in the middle of in the morning. I hit the button, it talks to my coffee maker, starts the coffee, the toaster pops down the toast to start the toast, starts making my breakfast. This is the future. The future of technology will actually have our devices communicating with each other to make our lives easier. And using blockchain technology will eliminate the need for a central location to handle that communication. That can be for updates or what have you, but actually allow the devices to communicate to each other instead of actually having to go back to that central authority, which makes things more efficient. Insurance. So insurance is really based on trust. And blockchain is basically a new way of managing that trust. And so how that can work with insurance is, we got the screen here. So predefined contracts. So that would be like an insurance application. Let's say you have an insurance policy and your event, let's say your house burns down. We can use the blockchain technology to actually automatically execute that insurance contract to have that settlement happen quicker, more efficient. People don't have to wait for that money and wait for that payout to get covered. We can see this happen in health insurance. We can see this happen in all cases with insurance. It's pretty exciting. These are a couple of companies that are actually using it now. So Standard Chartered and AIG are both looking to use blockchain technology in partnership with IBM. You'll see IBM a lot. You can't even really Google IBM these days without seeing blockchain tied to that back of their name. So this is going to make policies get paid out quicker, like I said before, improve customer experience because they're going to get paid out quicker and not have to have that delay, and also just make things streamlined and smoother, really update some of these outdated systems that insurance companies are currently using. Now, Blocksure is a blockchain project that's currently working on this right now, and it's happening, folks. Private transport and ride sharing. So this is an example that I've given in past presentations that I've done. Blockchain, if we look at Uber, so right, Uber transformed the taxi cab industry. But Uber is still a centralized company. They have a CEO, they have a CFO. A lot of the money that is made through Uber, the company, is going to these central authorities. The blockchain will allow for us to create a decentralized peer-to-peer ride-sharing app. And there's several that are actually out there now. And what this will allow for is I can pull up an app and I can make the arrangement to get picked up by somebody with a car and get a ride, and we can do this transaction directly. So this is going to lower the cost of my ride while increasing the profits to that person that's actually giving me that ride. We can also look at this to automate paying for parking, tolls, fuel, all of those kind of things using this blockchain technology. Online data storage. So this is another big one. Again, central servers are vulnerable to hacking, data loss, human error. If you have your cloud storage set up with, let's say, Dropbox or Google Drive, I don't want to pinpoint any of them specifically, but they have central servers. Those central servers are vulnerable to hacking, and they're vulnerable for going down and losing your data. There's actually projects out right now, and we'll kind of get to that in a second, that allows cloud storage to be spread out between computers all over the world using this blockchain, and actually reward these people that are using their hard drive space on their computers with storing your data, while lowering the cost and actually increasing security and increasing the safety of your data around the world. And that is Storage is one of those companies that's creating that. There's also a coin called Sia Coin. It's another project that is actually working on this decentralized cloud storage as well. Charities. So this is a big one that's close to my heart. How many charities that you've done research on, and you find out that huge amounts of their money is actually going to running the charity and not actually going to the charity it's designed to help? This is a huge issue. So we have a lot of inefficiencies with charities, and there's a lot of corruption. I think it's the average money that doesn't. So if you donate to a charity, the average money that stays with that charity versus going out to the service they plan to help is about 79%. So if you give $1 to a charity, they're keeping 79 cents of it, and only about 21 cents is actually going to the person that you're trying to help. Using this technology, we can actually streamline this and get rid of some of that overhead, as well as allow you to be able to open a blockchain and be able to look and know exactly where that transaction is going. So you can actually see, okay, my money went in, this is who it went to help, and you can actually know that your money is going to the right place. BitGive is actually a local Tampa Bay, Florida company. It's local to us. And they're actually working on this project right now. Voting. So this is actually one of the things that excited me the most, that actually got me involved with cryptocurrency to begin with. We're constantly faced with, is there fraud in voting? Are they being, we got whole servers that'll go down or something, and then people need to re-vote. It's double counting. I know with my own local government, they have multiple stages that they do to double check and make sure that they got their numbers right. But if we could automate this stuff with the blockchain, it can make things a lot smoother for everyone. Not only that, but also getting rid of that central server that's holding that data and spreading it out gets rid of that potential of one server going down and losing that data. We can use this for voter registration, verification, vote counting. All of it can be open, transparent, real time. You don't have to wait for somebody to count it. It gets rid of fraud. It's just it makes systems much more fair, more democratic, more open. Just a better system to use for our voting. The voting system is very outdated. There's a couple of projects that are working on that right now to improve voting, and they've actually had votes in Australia, India. There's different places that have actually already used these technologies to do voting, and it's turned out well. Government. So, as most people know, governments are often slow. They're not very easy not transparent in a way for us to be able to see what's going on with our government, what's going on with our money. And it's prone to corruption. We can look at lobbyists, and we can go down the rabbit hole with that. But it's a kind of a gross system, and this technology has the potential to reduce the bureaucracy, increase security, increase efficiency, increase transparency, so you know what your government is doing. The days are numbered for governments. In some ways, it almost seems like we're working for governments, when I think governments came into place to work for us, and I think we're getting back to a time where governments can serve their people. Versus the other way around. Dubai is actually aiming to put all of their government documents on the blockchain by 2020, and I know they're looking to get rid of politicians, get rid of attorneys, all of those things, and they're going to continue to look at using this technology to get rid of their government and actually streamline and automate things and allow people to participate in their government where they're we don't need those politicians necessarily representing us. I think we're a long way out before we see that happen in the United States, but it's exciting to see projects like this happen. Public benefits, so there's another huge one. My mom actually had a stroke, and when she had her stroke, she couldn't work anymore. And it took her 6 months before she actually got her first Social Security check. That is unacceptable. That really affects people. That really puts people behind on their bills. Somebody could lose their house. Luckily, she had some good benefits with AFLAC and actually was able to pay her bills. But systems are slow, and there's a lot of bureaucracy when it comes to public benefits. And we can streamline these services with this technology. It just makes it easier to verify, easier to submit, easier to distribute. Everything can happen quicker and be more secure while doing so. The GovCoin is one of those projects that's actually working on that right now with governments. It's also a good contender for basic income. This is something that could be kind of controversial as far as basic income allowance. It's always being talked about, but this would be a technology that could actually make that project and actually improve that system as well as making it streamlined. Again, you can hear a common theme here, making things transparent, quicker, more efficient, and more secure. So it is a possibility. Healthcare, there's another big one. Healthcare, they have a lot of old, outdated systems. A lot of times doctors have a hard time getting the HIPAA information and going through all these processes to get information about their potential clients or their people they're taking care of. And this can really slow down the process of someone getting the proper care they need. I know that I've seen people get prescriptions. I actually came from insurance industry, and I've seen people have a hard time getting prescriptions that are even the right prescription. I had a friend that was in the hospital, and he got a prescription that was for a pharmaceutical that he's allergic to. But if we had systems that actually really made it really secure and really open, like, hey, this would be rejected by the system, so we didn't have that issue. So people don't get the wrong prescriptions, and they're really taken care of well. We can also do this with storing the medical records, obviously, a lot like storing, any kind of record. We can make it more secure, more streamlined. Only people that are authorized can access it and can access it quickly and efficiently. There's a couple of the projects that are working on that. I know there's actually quite a few others as well. Energy management. This is something that's huge. I know for me, I have with Fukuchi Electric at one of my houses. It's the only choice I have. At my other house, I have another house that I rent out, and I have Duke Energy there. So I don't have any choices. I can't choose my electric company. So I'm sort of up to their whim of how much they're going to charge me per kilowatt hour, and it's sort of a monopoly. I don't understand why we have the system to begin with, but the blockchain technology can help aid that and actually change that system. We can actually allow for us to purchase energy from each other and actually reduce that hold or grasp that monopoly has on us. Power Ledger is somebody that's doing that in the space right now. So they're actually working with the largest energy producer in Australia. They're an Australian-based company, and they're actually allowing people with solar energy to be able to sell their solar energy to their neighbors, and actually keeping that energy where that location is and actually selling it to each other. And they're also working with an Indian government. They're working with several other governments as well and electric companies to implement this technology. Online music. So online music and really music in general and artists have struggled for a long time, ever since Napster came out, to not only make money on their product, but even have their number or their name tied to their product. That's a challenge. So there's startups that are coming out that are actually allowing musicians to put their information on the blockchain so they get actual proper credit for the products that they're producing, as well as getting paid directly from their fans. So that can actually increase the profit for those artists and kind of cutting out those record deals and record companies that are really kind of nickel and diming those people and giving people their profit credit they deserve. If I spent the time to write an album and create all this music, I definitely want the credit for my product and wouldn't want somebody else going in and stealing it and not having anything to be able to do about it. Mycelia and Ujo Music, they're both working on that right now. Retail. So we kind of addressed retail in the past as well with some of these things, but we're going to dig in that a little bit deeper. When you shop online, you got to rely on trust. So you have to trust the person that you're doing business with, that they're going to send the product to you, and trust that you're getting the proper care and service that you want when you buy online. So there's actually the possibility of connecting buyers and sellers directly without middlemen and without any fees. And that could be pretty cool. That'll be used through smart contract systems. I'm not going to go into detail on that in this call, but basically we can use this to create whole contracts, and we've kind of talked about that as we've gone through this, on the blockchain to self-execute when things happen. So an example of that, the status quo is kind of on the left. So you got a consumer, you have multiple middlemen, you got Visa, you got Amazon, you got the person that's actually selling the product. There's a whole bunch of people in this loop. On the right, you see OpenBazaar. OpenBazaar is a product right now. You can go on OpenBazaar, you go on their website, and it operates just like eBay, but without a central person. There's no fees or anything. It actually allows for consumers to purchase directly from the people they want to buy from in a direct manner. It's safe. It's encrypted. There's reviews on there, obviously, so there's reviews so that you know, hey, this person's got 5 reviews. That's not very many. Maybe I can trust them, maybe I can't. And you got somebody else that's got 10,000 reviews. They're all 5-star. You know that you're going to definitely get that product, and it's probably going to be exactly what you want. And it also incentivizes those retailers to really be accurate with what they're selling, or their reviews aren't going to be up, and people aren't going to buy from them. Real estate. So this is kind of, let me go back. All right. So there's a lot of fraud in real estate. I don't know if anybody's seen the numbers. I know there's quite a bit of investors that have self-directed IRAs that have invested in real estate. I think it was something like $19 million worth of fraud in 2016. 2017, it was like over $1 billion. I think it was like $4 billion. And then in 2018, we've already passed the number that all of 2017 was. So fraud is actually increasing in real estate. A good example of that is, like, let's say somebody sells a house and they go to the title company, they pick up a check, they go out in the parking lot, they take a picture with their phone to deposit that check, and then they go back into the title company and say, oh, my bank told me it's going to take a while. Can I just go ahead and get that wire? This is happening over and over again. This has happened quite a bit of times, and this is a lot of where that fraud comes from. We also have lack of transparency. We got bureaucracy. We got a lot of different things. Mistakes in public records. You got a title company. They put a 0 in the wrong place. That changes everything. So if we can use this technology to actually speed up the transactions and also reduce the need for paper-based record keeping, that can be huge. And it is huge. It's already happening. We can use this with title companies. We can verify, track ownership. We can see once a real estate transaction is done on the blockchain, we can go back and see if there's any liens on that transaction going forward. We can see if there's anybody that's owed any money on that. We can see who owns the property. Everything can be open and transparent. And that is happening right now. So in Vermont, there's actually a city in Vermont that is actually recording all of real estate transactions on the blockchain. And it's pretty cool. They're actually doing that now, right now in the United States. And it's also happening outside of the United States as well more often. These are a few different people that are actually working on that right now. BrickBit is one of those projects. BrickBit is actually a blockchain project that's actually going to be at our Blockchain Real Estate Summit. So Crypto Consultants is the name of one of my companies, and we are actually putting on a Blockchain Real Estate Summit, and that is going to take place in Spring Hill, Florida on September 25th. And that is my contact information, so if you do want more information about that, you can feel free to reach out to me. I can give you some information, but what we're going to have there is we're going to have people from all aspects of real estate, from investors, real estate agents, mortgage brokers, and we have a number of different real estate and blockchain projects that are actually going to be there as speakers. And it's going to be September 25th. And that pretty much concludes the presentation. We did go through 18 industries. I think the title of this presentation was the 19 industries that will be impacted by blockchain technology. The 19th industry is your industry, whatever industry you're in. I see this coming and really changing everything, a lot like the internet did for businesses back in the 90s. This is the same kind of thing. It's like Internet 3.0 is what they're calling it.
And I just want to remind everybody to go ahead and type any questions you have into the chat box. And I cut you off a little bit there, Travis, but when you have a second, I do have a question.
Sure. Please ask the question. I think that's where we're at now, is asking those questions.
Okay. So I know you mentioned for real estate, and obviously, there's a lot of wire fraud is what kind of is going around. We work with a lot of title companies and closing agents and things of that nature, and the resounding sort of warning out there is wire fraud. So can you kind of give everybody on the webinar an idea of how this would help with wire fraud?
Sure. So I guess one of the big things is with the blockchain technology, it's secure and it's coming from a certain source. So I think with the wire fraud, one of the big issues or what's happening is you got everything set up with a title company, then all of a sudden somebody knows about it somewhere. They hacked into the title company's system or something, and they send an email to that person and say, hey, we've actually made a change. This is actually who you want to wire that money to. And so if you had a blockchain actually addressing this and it was encrypted and actually on the blockchain, there wouldn't be any way for somebody to actually break in and actually send that data to that person. And again, with that real estate summit we're actually have coming up, the Tampa Bay Title is one of the largest title companies in Tampa Bay. Aaron Davis is the CEO of that company as well as a number of other title companies. He's actually one of our speakers at the conference. I actually met him doing a presentation to his employees. So it was really kind of cool. It was the CEO of a title company is actually presenting to his employees that we're going to be going out of business if we don't adapt, and teaching people how this technology is going to impact their business as well as help their business and help avoid that fraud. So I hope that sort of answered the question. I know it's sort of general.
It does. It does. It really is very helpful. When you're looking at something where you have, this blockchain technology, and you mentioned often that, it's going to be transparent and accessible, who are these people that are checking the chain, and how do they get paid? Because it does sound very inexpensive to continue with this kind of technology. So how does that work? Or can you kind of just give us an idea? That's probably a really in-depth answer, but give us an idea of how that works.
Yeah. So I think there's two parts to this. So one part is that the ledger is open for everybody to access. So I'll have a copy of the ledger, you have a copy of the ledger, everybody in this call has a copy of this ledger. So it's open for everybody to see. And so part of that being open for everybody to see allows us to see it, but it also prevents fraud or somebody from changing that system. So if one of us, again, one of us in the room or one of us in this call decides that they want to make a change or they want to do something fraudulent, it's not going to match up with everybody else's data sheet and everybody else's ledger. So we're going to know that person's trying to cheat the system. So that's one aspect of it. So it's us ourselves that are actually verifying this. And then the other aspect of that is the mining process. So we didn't go into that at all, but the mining process is basically the process of verifying transactions. So if somebody takes the resources with their computer and the time to actually add these new transactions to the ledger, they're actually going to get rewarded with new cryptocurrencies or new coins for doing so. So they're incentivized by earning new cryptocurrencies for doing so.
Okay.
And so every situation is going to be different too. So it's tough to really. It's sort of the broad answer, but it can be very specific to each one of these cryptocurrencies, what their actual use case is even. So let's say you're a title company, you're verifying these transactions, and maybe you earn a new currency or new cryptocurrency, a new coin for verifying this transaction. But then maybe you need to use that coin to be able to verify the next transaction and actually conduct your business. And so that all works within that system. There's so many ways that this could be laid out, and it's not set in stone, and every business has an opportunity to set it up how they want to set it up.
Okay, so really, just then the idea is that over time it might start out with one company using it, and then, it'll just kind of grow from there. This is just a question based on your opinion, but, how soon before we're going to see, let's say even 20% of the industries out there using blockchain, do you feel like? Is it something that's going to be in the next 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah, that's tough. So I think in the next 5 years for sure. I think 10 years it's going to be more and more. I think the more time that goes by, the more it's going to happen. So the technology is very new right now, and so there's some limitations to it. So one of the limitations is scalability. Because we all have a copy of this ledger, and the process of verifying these transactions does create a little bit of a lag time. So like Bitcoin, for instance, if I send a Bitcoin transaction, it takes 10 minutes for that transaction to be verified. But that's the way that we keep somebody from sending Bitcoin twice. There has to be systems in place to prevent double spending is what it's called. And so I think there's actually platforms and there's infrastructure being created right now that's already out there and being tested and being used to reduce this time and make things quicker and more efficient. And I think it's just a matter of time. And I think it's tough to say, but I do believe 100% that this is the future. Every industry is going to be impacted by this as this technology gets adopted. It's just like the Internet. When the Internet first came out, it was actually really difficult there's a limited number of websites that could even exist. There's no limited number of .coms, a limited number of speed, limited number of places you could go, a limited number of transactions that could happen. It didn't scale well at all. And that's kind of where we're at right now with cryptocurrencies. It isn't scaling well. But there's people working on that. And just like the Internet, eventually there was things that came into place that actually allowed that to scale and helped that scale. And the same thing is going to happen with cryptocurrency.
Okay, great.
So it's tough to predict, but it's constantly growing. It's constantly improving. Like as far as from an investment standpoint, because I know we have a lot of investors on the call, this last run up, so we went from like $3,000 for one Bitcoin all the way up to $18,000 in December of last year. Right now we're around $7,000. So it had a huge correction, came back down. But Bitcoin's done this 5 times. It's happened over and over again where we've had huge corrections. It's come back down, usually like 86%, but then that's after like a thousands and thousands of percent increase before that. And I think this last run up we had in December was individuals. It was regular people putting money in because there wasn't a lot of liquidity in the market for institutional investors. Another challenge is there wasn't any regulation, there wasn't insurance on these transactions, a lot of things that limit institutional money. But right now, there's a number of companies that are working on creating an ETF right now. An ETF basically allows for people to invest in an ETF, and the ETF actually buys the currency and they insure that transaction. And so that is actually being created right now, and I think before the end of the year, we're going to see the first Bitcoin ETF launch. And I think we're going to see a huge run-up when that happens, and it's not going to be regular people putting money in at that point. It's going to be institutional money coming in. And so with our website there, you see Haystack 10, we actually have a project that actually helps people get into this market ahead of this institutional money. And we have platforms that will be created in the future. We've actually are ahead of that movement, and we actually are helping people do that right now. And we can do that through the self-directed IRAs and help people get that set up. And actually, it's I don't know how many. I know you're careful about what we do as far as recommending advice and stuff like that as far as the, Advanta. But basically what this is a top 10 weighted index fund. So what you're staying in those top 10 cryptocurrencies. You're grabbing the next Google, you're grabbing the next Amazon, you're grabbing the next Apple, but you're not staying in those top 10 that, if something falls out of that, we're not holding on to that bag and riding it back down. So we're really trying to create a platform that allows people to have access to their money at all times. So we never actually have access to it, while making sure they grab that next big company that's going to, be the next Amazon, be the next Google.
And,
and we do consulting for free as well.
And that's a
Go
big
ahead.
thing, with self-directed IRAs is you have the opportunity to make the investments that you choose. And, like Travis mentioned, there was, a big rise in the value of, Bitcoin, for example, and other cryptocurrencies. And, we do see people taking advantage of that in their self-directed IRA as well. So there's just so many different types of investments that you can make with a self-directed IRA. And, the amazing part of it is that it's going to be up to you. And so if you want to take advantage of, your newly found knowledge in blockchain technology and learn more about it, or, look into cryptocurrency or something, like gold and silver bars or real estate or any of those things, you have the opportunity to do so. I did not see any other questions jump into the chat box. So with that, we're going to wrap up the webinar. But I do want to thank Travis for joining us again. It was a lot of really good information, and it really does just kind of give you, a broader idea of what blockchain can be used for, because, I think we're all really focused on cryptocurrency at this moment, but just, kind of having that insight is really amazing. So thank you so much, Travis, for joining us, and thank you, everybody, for logging on to the webinar.